make us very much like every other liberal arts college, and there's some things that make us quite different. So hopefully by the end of today's presentation, you'll have a sense of what those are. What you're seeing here is the Shanahan Center for Teaching and Learning, and that is one of our main academic buildings on campus. It also has a beautiful recital hall. It has a Starbucks. It has a wonderful auditorium, and our math department and the Office of Admission Financial Aid and the President's Office is housed here as well. So I want to talk a little bit about where we're located. So we are located in Claremont, California, which is about 35 miles or 56 kilometers due east from Los Angeles. We are very much in the heart of Southern California, which is a wonderful location to go to school. We are about 45 minutes, this is all without traffic, which is not usually a thing, but we're about 45 minutes from Claremont to places like the beaches, to places like Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Universal Studios, about 45 minutes to downtown Los Angeles. And there is a train that if you walk from the campus to downtown Claremont, there's a train that will take you into downtown Claremont in about 45 to 50 minutes. We're also about an hour west of Palm Springs in the desert, and we are in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, and it is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful area in which to go to school. And also the city of LA is the third largest in the United States. It has a lot to offer in terms of cultural diversity, in terms of restaurants, museums, and all sorts of different things. It's a fantastic area. So we are actually in the town of Claremont, which is a small town of about 35,000 people, and it is known as the City of Trees. Its unofficial nickname is the City of Trees and PhDs, and that is largely because most of the people who live in or around Claremont are somehow connected to the Claremont Colleges, or certainly familiar with them. You see Harvey Mudd there in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. I should point out that that's about a 20-minute drive to Mount Baldy, which is a 10,000-foot peak. So students who want to do things like hiking or mountain biking, or even things like snowboarding or skiing in the winter, because those mountains will be snow-covered, even though it'll probably be 70 degrees on campus during that time. So it's a wonderful area. So I want to talk a little bit about the Claremont Colleges. We are part of the Claremont Colleges, and we're the only planned college consortium in the United States. And what that means is essentially you've got 5 undergraduate colleges and 2 graduate institutions that are located within 1 square mile. So unlike other consortia in the United States, for the Claremont Colleges, you literally walk across the street and you're on another campus. You see the 5 colleges there: Pomona, Scripps, Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Pittsburgh. Each of us adds something quite different to the consortium. And essentially, we give you the best of both worlds. So for example, all of the things that you'll hear from other liberal arts colleges are true at Harvey Mudd, and at the Claremont Colleges, meaning that you have an average class size of about 15, student-teacher ratios of 8 to 1. So you get to know your faculty members very well. But because we share resources, we essentially give you the resources of a small to mid-sized university. You'll see some of the shared resources there on the screen. We share a central library, 2.5 million volumes. The only reason that number matters is that it's quite a few more than you're going to find at most small liberal arts colleges. We share campus safety, health services, counseling services, our Queer Resource Center, Chicano Latino Students Association, the Office of Black Student Affairs, and our chaplains. We also combine in a kind of an odd way for athletics. You might think that we would have 1 team or 5 teams. Instead, we actually have 2. The students from Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps combine to make 1 team called CMS. And our arch rivals are Pomona Pitzer. So we actually play each other. We are all Division III in the NCAA, so we don't have athletic scholarships, but a very high level of play in the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and about 27 different sports for men and women. There are also about 300 or so different clubs and organizations across the Claremont Colleges that students can join. And we're also, you see at the top there, we have about 6,000 undergraduate students and about 9,000 students when you add in the 2 graduate institutions. So again, all of us range in size. Harvey Mudd's the smallest at about 900, to Pomona at about 1,600, but no matter what, you're going to get that balance of small school advantages, but with larger school resources. The most important way in which we interact, however, is absolutely academically. So once you're a student at any one of the Claremont Colleges, you are considered to be a student of the other Claremont Colleges in terms of taking courses. We make that very easy for students who want to do that, and actually every single Harvey Mudd student will take courses at the other Claremont Colleges. So we are on the same exam schedule, the same break schedule. the same course schedule. So if a class ends at 8:50 at Harvey Mudd, the next one will start at 9 o'clock at any one of the other Claremont colleges. And since this is 1 square mile to walk from Harvey Mudd up here down to Pomona, which is the furthest southern campus, then that might take you 10 to 15 minutes depending on how slowly you walk. If you want to take a class at any of the other Claremont colleges, you actually just literally, when it's your turn to register, will type in the word, say, history, and all of the history courses at all of the Claremont colleges will pop up. And you, in some cases, in most cases, I should say, you have the same chance of getting into a class at one of the other Claremont colleges as you do at any one of the other Claremonts at your home institution. So students constantly take advantage of this and are constantly moving among the 5 institutions at all times. All right, so moving on back to Harvey Mudd specifically. For those of you who are sort of starting or in the middle of your college process, one thing I want to encourage you to do is take a moment to read the mission statement of the colleges you're considering, because someone somewhere distilled the values of that college into one sentence. And if you see our mission statement here, that's very true for us. We're a very mission-driven institution. And for us, it's all about that balance of high-level work in the STEM fields, but in the context of a liberal arts education. And we're very serious about wanting students who are as excited to do work in their humanities, social sciences, and arts fields as they are to do work in their STEM fields. You see there, we are the smallest of the Claremont colleges at 900 students, founded in 1955. And we're very proud of the fact that we're 50% female and 50% male, which is not very common for a lot of tech-based institutions. So we have 10 different majors at Harvey Mudd. This is something that makes us quite different than other liberal arts colleges. 10 different majors, all in the STEM fields. You see them listed there. Most students at Harvey Mudd will do a single major, although you can do a double major, either 2 things at Harvey Mudd. That would be a lot of work, but you could do that. Or you could also do a double major with something at Harvey Mudd and then something at one of the other Claremont colleges. One major I do want to call out here while we're on this slide is our engineering major, because it is quite different than most places in that you don't major in mechanical engineering or civil engineering, you major in engineering as a field. And we do that very intentionally so that when you graduate, you're not pigeonholed into only one area. You can go on in any aspect of engineering. Most students will use their electives to focus in on something specific within the field, but you're not required to do that. But we have a lot of different sort of areas of focus that students will choose. In addition to that, though, we're going to make sure that we teach you how to learn, how to think, and how to problem solve as an engineer so that when you graduate, again, there's no shelf life on your degree. You're going to learn how to keep up with the technology as it changes. That hasn't been an issue for our students that they have a differently titled engineering degree. They certainly do quite well when they're looking for work. And very often they will go immediately from Harvey Mudd into the engineering workforce. And if they decide later to go on to get their graduate degree of some sort, often the companies for whom they're working will pay for that. So it's an amazing opportunity for our students. But I just wanted to highlight that since it is a different program. Our curriculum has 3 different parts to it. And the first part is the major, the core curriculum in humanities, social sciences, and the arts. And they're just about a third. But let me show you a little bit more about how that works. So this is the core curriculum, which is the very first part that you'll be doing once you arrive on campus, and it is a 3-semester curriculum. There's a couple things that make our core curriculum different from others. One is that we do have a requirement that all students before they get to us have already taken a year of calculus, a year of chemistry, and a year of physics. We don't dictate at what level those courses are taught. Students come to us from around the world. But what that allows us to do is essentially ratchet up the start of the core curriculum so that you don't spend your first year at Harvey Mudd recreating whatever it is you're doing in your last year of high school. You'll see from the chart that's there that you will study in every single department before you declare your major. And here's something that makes us a little different from other technical institutions, is that coming in, you don't have to know what you want to major in. All you have to know is that you're fairly certain that it's something in the STEM fields, although there's even an out for that if you change your mind. But this core curriculum lets you study broadly before you focus in on something specifically. The other part of the core is that we start teaching you the way we want you to learn. And by that I mean in a highly collaborative way, working closely with your peers and with your faculty members so that by the time you declare your major at the end of your sophomore year, you're ready and you can make a really informed decision. The next third is the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. and that's what we call HSA. And again, this is actually often why students choose to come to Harvey Mudd. They know they want to major in the STEM fields. They know they love the STEM fields, but they don't want to give up everything else that they are interested in studying. And in fact, all students at Harvey Mudd are required to declare a concentration, which is just short of a minor, in some aspect of HSA. You see the approved concentrations there, but you can also design your own. And on average, about half of your courses in HSA will be taken at Harvey Mudd, and the other half will be taken at some combination of the other Claremont colleges. One of the reasons why there's never been a single student since Harvey Mudd was founded that hasn't graduated taking courses at the other Claremont colleges. Now, I want to talk a bit about research. I think often some students and families are concerned about how a small liberal arts college can provide the same kind of research opportunities that a larger research university can. And this is where it actually matters that we are entirely undergraduate. So, for example, all of our faculty members are here because they want to teach. That is a given. We're never taught by teaching assistants. All of our faculty members are there to do the teaching, but they're also all still doing research in their field. And if they were at a larger institution, they would turn to their graduate students to support them. At Harvey Mudd, they turn to their undergraduates. So in fact, you may have earlier and deeper access to research than you might have at a larger institution with graduate students. And research takes a few different forms. On average, you'll certainly be doing research as part of many of your courses. That's to be expected. In addition to that, we have on average about 200 students on campus doing fully funded research, working with faculty members every summer. And then we also have every student will do some sort of senior capstone project. Now, if you major in the fields like biology, chemistry, pure math, pure physics, then you are likely to do a senior thesis, original work, not piggybacking on your faculty members' work, often resulting in a publishable paper. But also, if you take part in, if you major in things like the more applied fields, engineering, computer science, applied math, applied physics, then you'll take part in something we have called the clinic program. And that's where companies like the ones you see listed here, but also places like Disney, SpaceX, these companies pay Harvey Mudd each year to have our students in groups of 4 or 5 take on real-life research problems for them. Every team of 4 or 5 is given a deliverable, a due date, a corporate liaison, and a budget, and that's their job to figure out how to make that work. So it's an incredibly sort of professional experience before the students even graduate. Now, there's on average 8 to 10 patents that come out of these projects every year. Our students' names are on the patents. The company retains the intellectual property, and that's why they pay us. But it's an amazing opportunity for our students. One of the ones I think that is a really good example, actually, is from several years ago now, but it was from the Oregon Biomedical Engineering Institute. And they asked our students to address the fact that the #1 cause of death on the battlefield is arterial bleeding. They wanted the students to essentially design an instrument that could be carried by a medic that could be used to stop bleeding in a soldier long enough to get the soldier out of surgery, into surgery. So the students essentially designed a large hypodermic needle. They filled it with tiny sponges and coated those sponges in a protein commonly found in jellyfish, which induces clotting. And so once the sponges were injected into the wound, between the expansion of the sponges and the clotting agent, it formed a solid mass or an injectable bandage. And if you Google or Bing injectable bandage, this is what you'll see. Stop bleeding in the soldier, transport the soldier, remove the bandage, and operate. So directly back to what you saw in our mission statement, this idea of understanding the impact of your work on society. And for some students, these are very much like a year-long job interview, because if you think about it, what better way to know if you want to hire someone than to watch them wrestle with a tricky interdisciplinary problem over the course of a year or so. And if you're a computer science major, you will do this for all of your senior year as one of your courses. And if you are an engineering major, you will do this for all of your senior year and also for half of your junior year. This is one of our it is our newest building, and it hasn't even opened yet. It will be opening next spring. It's the McGregor Computer Science Center, which is incredibly exciting for us. 36,000 square feet. And most of the first floor is going to be a makerspace, and it's very exciting to be able to design a makerspace literally from the ground up. In addition to that, there will be new robotics labs for us. It'll allow us to expand our computer science faculty somewhat. We're not trying to expand the department itself. It's already quite large. But it is going to have a great new home. And it's actually going to be sort of the gateway from our campus to the other Claremont colleges, because it's going to be right on sort of the southwest corner of our campus. And so that should be opening, we believe, in March or so. So dorm life at Harvey Mudd is incredibly important to our students. We are very residential, 98% of our students living on campus all 4 years, and we do guarantee housing all 4 years. And essentially, these are the 9 different dorms that we have on campus. Every dorm at Harvey Mudd is a combination of first-year students through seniors. We really want our students to be surrounded by other students who, for example, have gone through the core curriculum. So it's possible for a first-year student to walk out and say in the hallway, I'm having trouble with number 17, and everyone around them has done some version of number 17 due to the nature of the core curriculum. But also the dorm is a hub of social life on our campuses. A lot of the dorms have sort of very strong personalities attached to them. And for some of our students, when they land in a dorm in their first year, they feel like they found their people and they will stay there for all 4 years. Most students will jump around a little bit from dorm to dorm. In your first year, you're assigned to a dorm based on the questionnaire you fill out. After that, it is a lottery system, and actually our students have a fairly convoluted system for figuring this out. If you just imagine what it's like to have a community of students who are all very good at probability. So they actually have something called mock room draw, where they figure out if they have a better chance of getting the room they want if they petition individually versus as a group. So it's an interesting process. We're actually trying to streamline that a little bit. This is sort of 4 of the pillars of the Harvey Mudd community that I wanted to highlight. I'll start with the honor code. So we are one of a handful of colleges in the United States to have an honor code. It is completely student run. And that means that most of the exams on our campus are unproctored. So literally a professor will hand you or send you an exam, tell you how long you have to take it, what resources you can use. You could be sitting, if you're someone who knows you study best or take exams best, then you can be blasting music and eating food, you can do that. If you want to be around other people, you can do that. You can be outside, you can be in your room, wherever you'd like to be. It also means that there's an incredible sense of trust, therefore, between our faculty, our students, and actually our administration as well. Our students have nearly 24-hour access to a good portion of our campus because we know that we can trust them to use the various equipment that's there correctly. But also in the sort of residential end of campus, students watch out for one another, a very, very strong sense of community there as well. And when there are infractions of the honor code, which of course there are, these are human beings, the students actually decide the consequences. And never in the history of the college has the college overturned a decision the students have made. So it's very much the idea of shared governance between the administration, the faculty, and the students. But a few of the other concepts you see on the screen here. Rigor I highlight just because you saw the core curriculum. It is rigorous. It usually is a sort of a step up in rigor for a lot of students. First semester is pass-fail, but I think for a lot of our students that's what's really excited them as they're moving to college. But within that is also an incredibly supportive environment and a highly collaborative environment. Harvey Mudd, as rigorous as it is not a what'd you get kind of environment. Students are not competing against one another. You may be amazing in biology. Someone else may be strong in engineering. All of these different things are going to play a role in sort of building the community of Harvey Mudd. But that collaboration support is really what undergirds all of it. We do have an academic excellence program on campus, which is a peer tutoring program, and a writing center, which supports our students in their writing efforts as well. Some of the outcomes for Harvey Mudd, this is actually for the class of 2019, but I can update it a little bit for the class of 2020. There's lots of things to talk about with outcomes for Harvey Mudd. So first of all, payscale.com has rated Harvey Mudd this year, and actually most years, as #1 for return on investment of any college or university in the country. Our alums have the highest average mid-career salary of graduates of any college or university in the country. You can see that the median salary there, which for 2019 was $107,500. For 2020, it was actually $112,500. And so that's obviously certainly something that we're proud of, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I also want to point out we're usually at or near the top of the list of liberal arts colleges sending the highest percentage of students on to graduate school. So if that's the path you're considering, we can certainly help you there as well. But I think one of the key things about why we think our students are so successful when they graduate is partly because we're obviously graduating students in the STEM field, so that gives us a leg up. But in addition to that, we believe that our students graduate with a set of 4 skills that distinguish them even from other high-level institutions. They know how to write, they know how to work across disciplines, they know how to collaborate, and they know how to communicate. You can be as brilliant as you want. If you can't talk about the work that you're doing, then it doesn't matter. And what we often hear is that our alums are essentially the translators in their graduate programs in their their jobs. And that means that they're able to do the really high-level technical conversations, but in addition to that, they can also translate the work they're doing for someone who may not have that same background, which is a crucial skill. So the outcomes for Harvey Mudd are pretty extraordinary. We not only have three or so different career fairs on campus, and often even in just one or two of those career fairs, we may have more corporate recruiters on campus than we have students looking to enter the workforce. So Harvey Mudd students are very much in demand. A little bit about admission. I'm not going to go through this whole slide, but a couple of things that I want to highlight for you. One, going back to our mission, when it comes to teacher recommendations, we do require 2 teacher recommendations, one from a math or science teacher, and the other from humanities, social sciences, or arts teacher. In addition to that, we no longer consider the SAT subject tests at all. And we are SAT and ACT optional for both the current class that's applying and for next year's class. And we mean that. We really want students to take that away, meaning that if you cannot take this exam, and we know that's very hard to do so this year, please do not go to great lengths to do so. Your health, your family's health is so much more important than any test you will ever take, and you will not be at any disadvantage if you apply without test scores. You'll see that we have 2 rounds of early decision. One has passed. You apply by November 15th and find out actually about it today. We let our students know last week. And then round 2, you apply by January 5th and find out by February 15th. There's no difference between those 2 rounds. There's just a matter of when students make that decision, but it is binding, meaning that if you're accepted under one of those programs, we expect that you'll withdraw your applications to other colleges. And then most students apply January 5th, and you usually find out by about the middle of March or near the end of that month. For financial aid, a couple key things we want our families to know. One is that we are need blind in our admission process for all of our permanent residents and U.S. citizens. In addition to that, we guarantee that we will meet 100% of demonstrated need. And also, we have both need-based and merit-based aid. So most of what we give out is need-based aid, but we do have several merit packages as well. Most of them don't require an application. All students are considered. But we do have 3 applications, the President Scholars Program, the FIRST and VEX Robotics Program that do require applications. And you can find more information about that on our website. But we really want students to know that we don't want the cost of Harvey Mudd, which we know is considerable, to stand in the way for families. And then finally, the impact of COVID-19. So what we really want our families to know is that we are all in this together. And by that, I mean, however your school ended in your last year, however your school is handling this year, we will meet you where you are. Take that into consideration. I mentioned our testing policies that have changed. There are lots of ways to connect with us virtually, certainly through things like this, but also we have virtual tours. We also have online interviews. We have one-on-one appointments you can request. So lots of different ways to connect to us. And so we hope certainly that you will take advantage of that. I just saw a question pop up. Are we need aware for international students? We are need aware for international students in the process. So I think that's where I will stop. But are there questions that I can answer for you? Again, please feel free to use the question and answer box in order to answer any questions, ask any questions. Anything out there? I will note that we are completely virtual this year. We have been first semester. We will most likely start that way because we are in Los Angeles County, and it is up to Los Angeles County how we will be functioning next semester. So we're thinking that we will at least start online, but we're hoping to have a chance to bring students back at some point next semester. It does mean even when we open, we will not be open for visitors because we're going to still try to keep the density lower on campus. But again, that's why we have all these different virtual ways for students to connect to us. Any questions I can answer for you? All right, here's another question. How is Harvey Mudd teaching hands-on classes virtually? And actually lots of different ways. I think we pivoted pretty well in March when we went entirely virtual, but then we had the entire summer to really make these plans about how this would work. And so some have transferred very easily. We're doing some courses in a synchronous fashion, meaning that sort of like this, you're watching a live presentation. Others are asynchronous, where students may be watching a recording and then coming together for different discussion groups and that sort of thing. I will say our labs have been amazing. Some of them we've literally sent materials to our students in order to have them make sure they have the things hands-on that they want to work on. One of our physics faculty members has created something that we're thinking could really be marketed in all sorts of ways, or at least shared, and that he's created a virtual lab where essentially students have full control over a camera that can take you into different areas of the lab. It can control various things. You have a little avatar. Looks a little bit like Mario Kart, but it has an avatar that moves around the lab, and you can sort of have access to different things. So I think our faculty have been incredibly creative about how they've managed to do this. And we've actually gotten wonderful reviews from our students about ways we have, in a place that highlights collaboration and community so much. And our Division of Student Affairs as well has done a wonderful job of sort of finding ways to recreate that for students. And many of our students have felt so strongly about finding collaboration and community that they have actually chosen to live together in various pods around the country, so they have that same collaboration even if they can't be on campus. Another question is about how you pursue aerospace engineering at Harvey Mudd. And essentially, as I mentioned, you're not going to major in aerospace engineering. I will say for most of our existence, the two largest employers of Harvey Mudd alums were Boeing and Northrop Grumman. Now it's Microsoft and Google, perhaps not surprisingly. So you would essentially be an engineering major, and you would use your electives within the engineering field to major in, or to focus in on specifically in aerospace engineering. There are plenty of classes that would allow you to do that. And also there's usually plenty of clinic projects that allow students to do some work in the aerospace field. So that is absolutely an option as well. Again, very popular option for our students, and Aerospace Corporation has been a frequent sponsor of our clinic projects as well as Boeing and Northrop Grumman. Another question, is it competitive to get into some majors when accepted? The answer is no. Students will have whatever you want to major in, you will be able to major in. I will say the two largest majors we have are engineering and computer science. And computer science has gotten very popular very quickly. But the way that has impacted us is it is not that we are limiting our own students in terms of being able to major in computer science. But unfortunately, we have had to limit the students at the other Claremont colleges from majoring in computer science at Harvey Mudd. We cannot guarantee that for students from Pitzer, Scripps, or Claremont McKenna. Pomona does not allow its students to major at other colleges, but the other colleges all do. But no, students will not have a limit on what they can major in. There are some computer science courses that may be harder to get into. It may mean that you can't take it the exact semester that you want to take it, but we are working to make sure that our students have access to the classes when they need them. And it is not something that will ever stop you from graduating, for example, in 4 years. We don't have any impacted majors as you might hear at other places. The next question is, what do students do for fun on the weekends? It really depends, I think, on the students. For some students, most of their social life is very much on our campus, and again, dorms will dictate a lot of that, whether it's parties or something like that. Harvey Mudd is known for having some of the best parties in Claremont, partly because you have a bunch of engineers and they're very creative. In addition to that, though, and more so, some students don't want to have anything to do with that, and they'll take advantage of the tons of things that are going on our campus, on the other Claremont colleges. That will be performances. At one point, someone figured out that there were 200 different music performances going on across the Claremont colleges in a given year, more than you find in some small cities, ranging from single student recitals up to main stage productions and performances. There are things like improv comedy. We have something on, it's not on the weekend, but we have something on our campus called Wednesday Nighters, which is like a study break for our students where they can perform for each other and do different things. But yeah, for most students, they're constantly moving among the 5 institutions, both for social life and for academics. And strong relationships form across the campuses as well. And that's one of the reasons why usually when we have reunions, they all happen at the same time, because there's so many relationships and marriages and partnerships that form across the Claremont colleges. Another question is the average IB points required to get into the STEM program at HNC. So we don't have an average sort of we don't have a minimum number of points. I can tell you that our students do tend to score pretty well in the IB. I think the average for our students who are applying from IB programs abroad is usually about a 39 or 40. That seems to be pretty typical, but that will change in any given year for different circumstances. And we certainly know that the circumstances from this past year and perhaps this current year could put a wrench in those numbers, knowing that things are changing, but that's the average number, I believe. And a question about what is the international student population like at Harvey Mudd. On average, we are about 8 or 9% international every year, and that is a pretty broad range of students coming from different areas. One of the advantages, I think, of being part of the Claremont Colleges is that whatever group you are a part of, whether that is international students or anything else, not only do you have the community on the Harvey Mudd campus, but you also have the community on all of the Claremont Colleges. And so you can take full advantage of that, and there is a strong community, especially an international student community, across all of the Claremont Colleges. So normally 8 to 9%. Let's see, next question. Is it possible for students to test out of some of the classes? And the answer there is yes. We certainly don't want you to spend your first year at Harvey Mudd literally recreating a class that you have already done in high school. So most of the technical courses, the STEM courses, will have a diagnostic test that will happen often before you get to Harvey Mudd. It's, again, we are an honor code school, so we trust you. And those will allow students to essentially place into the next level course, if that makes sense. It will never move a student backwards. We don't have like a remedial program or anything like that. The diagnostic test will only move students forward. But not all of the courses do that. So for example, in computer science, you'll notice from my presentation today and from our logo in the corner here that our colors are black and gold. And so in many of the different areas there are black and gold tracks. Black is the more advanced and gold is the regular. And so essentially for computer science, for example, there's CS5 black, CS5 gold, and CS5 green. And on that one, we really do allow you to tell us. If you feel like you're coming in with a stronger background in computer science, you can opt for CS5 black. The CS5 green is actually for students who might want to do our mathematical and computational biology major. It gives students an entree into that. But yeah, that's the situation. We do have two humanities, social sciences, and arts courses within the core. Those you cannot pass out of. One is a course called RIT 1, which is, it's actually a very cool class. It is 8 students and 1 professor, or 16 students and 2 professors. And we want to make sure our students understand that writing isn't relegated to the non-technical fields, that students will be writing no matter what. And the other is HSA 10, which is a critical thinking course in all different areas. And again, a very small class where students get a chance to kind of apply some of the writing things that they were learning in the first part of the course, or the first part of the semester. And those no student will pass out of. Any other questions? Let's see. The average acceptance rate for STEM 2020. Well, so for us, we don't separate the average acceptance rate. We don't separate out STEM because everything we do is STEM. You don't apply to a major, you just apply to the college. So I can share, you saw on that last slide, the acceptance rate for last year was 18%. That's slightly higher than it normally is. It's normally somewhere around 14 or 15%. Hard to say what's going to happen this year. We've only had early decision 1. There was an increase in those applications, but on average, it's about 15% for our acceptance rate. Any other questions? I'll wait a minute, see if anything else pops up. No? Nothing else popping up? Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning, or whatever time it is, wherever you are. Maybe a question did pop up. Yes, there is a question. Oh, hold on. If a student is only interested in one STEM discipline, are they a good fit for Harvey Mudd? That is a fantastic question, and I wish more people would ask that. In many ways, no, but I'll put a spin on that. The reason I say that is you see that core curriculum and that you're going to study in every single department that we offer. We would argue that you will be stronger in whatever of our majors or areas, departments that you choose by having this background in all of these other areas. Because so little in life right now, pretty much ever, but especially now, is not interdisciplinary. So we know you will be a better mathematician, engineer, scientist by having this broad background both in the STEM fields, but in the other areas as well. But that being said, you are going to study for 3 semesters in all of these different areas before you focus in on your major. So if you are a student who only wants to study one thing, or if you don't really want to study humanities, social sciences, and arts, Harvey Mudd probably isn't a great fit for you. Instead, we really want students who are going to really embrace this idea of a broad core curriculum. So that is that. Another question popped up about, does Harvey Mudd have an integrated graduate program? We do not have a graduate program. The 2 graduate institutions that are part of the Claremont Colleges are Claremont Graduate University and the Keck Graduate Institute for Applied Life Science. And it's rare actually for our students to move on to one of those colleges or universities. It's more often that they're going to go sort of elsewhere to different institutions, and you can find more information about where they end up on our website. But there's not a specific integrated graduate program. Years ago, there was a 5-year master's program, but that has not been around for probably 15 or 20 years. Any other questions? No? Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been fun to have this time with all of you. Please feel free to reach out to us and email. You see my email address right there on the screen. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But until then, I hope everyone has a great day, and please take care of yourself and others.